So whenever you look at the royal family, you need to keep in mind two things. There's two genes in the royal family. One we know is longevity. In fact, if you're anywhere near a royal, the chances are, well, we know they've got more money than us, but they're going to actually live longer than us. And look at the stats here that if the Queen were to walk about the population, then only 0.15% of the population would be older than her. So 99.85% of the people that she encounters will be younger. Of course, she'll be a lot richer than them, but also she will be probably likely to live longer. And the second part of the longevity fact is that someone born into the royal family could expect to live 26% longer than someone in the general public, or as I'd call them, a pleb. And I mean that in the Latin sense of the word, meaning the commoner. And so why do they live longer? What is it with the genes? Is there nature or nurture? And I do believe obviously they've got some genes there that give longevity, but you can cancel out that longevity gene by going under a bus. So I do think nurture is part of it. I do think that obviously the royals have got the best medical care, probably on good diets, the importance of exercise, of mind, using the mind in a positive way, trying to reduce stress, keeping body weight down, sleeping well, avoiding alcohol and smoking. And of course, if you're the Queen, having pets, that lowers your blood pressure. So there's many reasons why the longevity is there. I do believe it's nature, and I do believe it is nurture, and that's the same also for any other gene that we've got. It can be affected by how we actually live. Second thing about the Queen, if you feel a bit upset that she's older than you, she's actually older than the United Nations, so don't worry too much about that. She's got 20 years on the United Nations. She has been the longest reigning monarch, born in Mayfair, and you can see obviously the Queen has outlived now, 15 prime ministers, and has really that longevity gene. She doesn't have the hair loss gene, being a female, but the two genes that you see in the royal family are hair loss really and longevity. So looking at the hair loss, and I think that's the gene that's very clearly in the royal family again. This photograph here, you can see Prince Charles with a little bit red-faced, probably caught a bit of sun as well, but he's obviously not been a redhead because he's gone grey, but you can see some of the loss in Prince Charles. The same, not as bad for Prince Andrew, the loss is there, but he's kept it pretty well compared to the others. And William, you can see his loss. So the gene is certainly in the male species. And here we have Prince Edward and Prince William, and you can see again the men unfortunately have been struck with hair loss, and we're going to be focusing a little bit more on Harry today. So in past times, all three of them had a good head of hair. Harry's a more redhead. When you've got red hair, you normally have less actual hair on your scalp, but it's a thicker, coarser hair. And of course the father has never been a redhead, and you can see also the elder brother had a lot of hair, very buoyant, no problem at that age looking at them. As you go a little bit forward, this photo seems quite innocent, but what I can see again, Harry's got a great head of hair, but what you notice on William is the thinning is already starting to show, but here he has retrograde alopecia. This is becoming more and more common. I've been in the industry now for about 13 years, and this was quite uncommon in terms of leads writing to us. It's now very, very common to have retrograde alopecia. It's not only genes. Remember I said about nature or nurture, and I think it's about medication, it's about food, probably pollutants, stress, lifestyles. So now we see a very high percentage of patients. So I've just seen this straight away in this photograph. Keep that in mind later on for when we look at Harry. And going forward, keep this in mind that not only has Harry got this thinning and diffuse loss throughout the scalp here happening, his brother's hair's gone at this stage. He's got this open donor. It almost looks like he's had surgery, but he hasn't. So here we have this donor that is very, very unstable. The density is very weak, the quality is very weak. If we were to put that on our photo finder, we would see a lot of miniaturization. So Harry, looking at him in this photograph here is going down the same line of hair loss and also of retrograde alopecia. So if you Google Harry and hair, apart from looking at Harry Styles, I'm not really interested in, it's, you know, you can see it's fairly well documented, the hair problems with Harry. And again, you can see, if you've got a keen eye, that retrograde alopecia, the crown dipping at the back. So it started off very well. He's got more ginger as he's got older, thick bushy head of hair, already signs of thinning as he's coming into a bit more maturity. Very good as he was younger, very thick hair, not too bad even when he was in the army. And then you can see here the quality starting to eradicate and to lessen a little bit. Again, a keen eye, you can see some of the thinning. He wears it pretty well and carries a good beard with him. Skin slightly red, and this is also a trait of the royal family, a little bit of rosacea. But you can see he wears it pretty well. It's not too evident at this stage. As you go forward in life, again, more and more of this thinning. What you see here, one giveaway of retrograde alopecia is really how the hair parts and how it lays. So you can see it's got this very uneven effect on it. You know, you can really see how it's laying, it's splaying out, almost these gaps in it. And this is really a typical sign of retrograde alopecia. Just the way the lay of the hair is very uneven, like an uneven pathway. You can see that there. And the thinning now has got worse. He's got diffuse loss. The quality of the hair is obviously diminishing. He had really struggled to grow that any longer. And you can see really that he's got the compound problem of extensive loss and with a very poor donor, unfortunately. Not the best photograph of the wedding, but you can see again the potential here for this nape is very fine. One part of retrograde alopecia is the nape can go thin, and that's obviously the case here. And his another shot really of the condition of his hair here. It's very wispy. You can't really do much with that in terms of keeping it under any direction. The best thing you could do with that is really to shave it down. The quality is going, it's diffused, it's quite aggressive loss, and it's becoming unattached from the laterals. Again, you can see here the lay of the hair, the retrograde alopecia, very evident again in this photograph. You're getting now a disconnect between the top of the scalp and dropping at the sides. Again, very evident retrograde alopecia, and more evidence so here. So the donor is very unstable, really would not be a very great candidate. Then you look at the photographs now, you can see the baldness has continued on. A good candidate, the baldness has continued on. A good candidate for FUE would have at least 180 centimetres to harvest from. Harry's is obviously dipping down, it's almost at the occipital bone, you've got the nape raising up. And again, he would, from this and with the whole mass of area to cover, would not be a great candidate for surgery. So what options has he got? Well, one option is to use Photoshop, as I did here, to Photoshop him looking in very young and very sprightly, eyes are shining like a young Adam and Eve. But that's obviously been a Photoshopped presentation. So that's one option. Secondly, for Harry, I think the future will be more and more baseball caps, and living in California, you can get away with that quite well. Quite a relaxed atmosphere. So covering it, baseball caps, shaving it down, that could be another option as he gets older, to go for the shave look. But if he really wants to, then he can go for some EMDR, and I'll leave you with that. Thank you so much for watching.
Cleans my hard drive.
The treatment uses bilateral stimulation such as eye movement or tapping on the body while the patient talks about the traumatic memory. Focusing on the movement helps shift the way the person processes the memory, reducing its emotional distress.
Every time something comes up, we're done with that.